Okay. This week you have introduced a new tool, a new shape that we're going to use. I also got this shape from Gravity Leadership. Gravity Leadership is an organization that partners with churches to help them on their journey of making disciples. And so I took their shape and we sort of put together this chapter for us. And here's basically what this looks like. So the reason that this is a practice, for us is because it is what we do. So remember, we've got paradigm, posture, practice, presence. It's what we do daily, weekly, monthly, the rhythms that we live in that increase our muscles, our way of being, that enable us to stand under our way of believing. So it's how we serve. When we practice, we'll just say how we serve increases our ability to stand under what we say, what we see, what we believe. So if I'm standing under an umbrella and I'm postured under this, there's going to be situations and circumstances that fight to bring me out from under that umbrella. The practices that I implement will strengthen my posture. It will strengthen my way of being so that when those circumstances come, I'm able to stay and stand sheltered under the truth that I say that I believe. So I don't just say it. This is how I form it in my heart. I speak it out of my mouth, but my practice is actually form it in my heart. And so Word Works and Once is the first tool of the two practices that we're going to introduce to you. And then there'll be one, the discipleship square will come in at the end, and that will sort of help summarize all that is to come. So here's why Word Works and Once is important. If you're looking at the picture on page 189, you have an upside down triangle. You have the words of God, you have the works of God. And then down at the bottom, you have the wants of God. Now, it's important to know that Word Works and Once, that we always talk about it inside the grace and truth matrix. So it is in a place of call in. So it's a high grace, high truth place. So it is in a safe, connected place where we do what we need to do to recognize the wants. So the want, when I say the word want, what I'm talking about is what's going on in your heart. So if you look at that triangle, you'll see the waterline of awareness. Kind of the best way to picture this is like an iceberg. What makes an iceberg dangerous is not actually what you see above the surface. So the 10% of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, right, we've all heard this, is not actually what makes someone who they are. It's what's below the surface that is who someone is. The 90% that we don't see actually affects the 10% that we do see, the 10% that we interact with, of people that we've just met. They aren't like the 10%, that's not who they actually are. It's the 90% that we don't yet know. And so when we think about this, when we think about our discipleship journey, we can actually know the words of Jesus and we can do the works of Jesus, but we can be misaligned in the wants. Below the surface, we can be misaligned in our hearts, and we'll miss the whole point. Because this is about being connected, right? God did not create us to employ us, right? He didn't create us so that we would regurgitate all of the right words. He also didn't create us so that we would just go do all of the right works. Words and works are super important, but the truth is, He can say all the right words and He can do all the right works without us. He created us so that He could be in connection with us. And so we could be connected in the place of our wants, in the place of our heart, in our wanter. And sometimes we say it like this: I need to get my wanter on the table. I need to get my heart on the table. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing or why I'm saying what I'm saying. Well, I need to figure out what's happening in my heart, because out of the heart, the mouth speaks. Out of the heart, the mind acts. Everything that we do, we don't do on accident. We do it from a place of connection or from a place of disconnection. We do it from a place of health or from a place of hurt. You've heard the saying, hurting people hurt people. Well, that's because when we're hurt in our wanter and we are not paying attention to healing it, what's inside of us will eventually come outside of us in what we do or in what we say. And so Word Works and Once is the tool that we use to help us get below the waterline and discover what we really want. This is why we're going to use the Sermon on the Mount, because throughout the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus basically debunks the power of words and works and brings people right into the wants. He says over and over again, you've heard it said that this is important. You've heard it said that this is important. You've heard it said that you have to do this. You've heard it said that you have to say this. I'm going to tell you. And over again, He gives them the most challenging statements Like, unless you do this, then it's not really. Unless you do this, then it's not really. Unless you feel this, then you don't really feel it. And so he goes and debunks all of these things that the Pharisees, they would have been living by all of these rules. Like the people that are listening to Jesus at the Sermon on the Mount, they would have observed the Pharisees all of their lives, living by all of these rules and regulations. Well, now they're listening to Jesus, and Jesus is saying, you've heard those guys say this, and you've seen them do this. But I will tell you right now that they are far from me because they are not this. And it's from this that we actually then do and say. And so he's debunking what they have always been taught, what they've always experienced. And he's telling them the most important part about all of this is your heart. If you don't know what's going on in your heart, then you don't really know what's going to come out of your mouth or what's going to be put on by your hands. And so Word Works and Wants really helps us get down to the bottom of things. And it's all about questions. It's all about questioning what's really going on inside of us. Why are we saying what we're saying? Why are we doing what we're doing? Jesus was he was one of the very best question askers. He asked over 300 questions throughout the Gospels. He answered 3. He answered 3. He asked over 300 questions. He had all of the answers. He already knew before he asked. He didn't have to hear it out of our mouths, and yet he still, over and over again, began to ask questions. Why? Because questions actually lower the waterline. Why do you feel the way that you feel? What are you struggling with? What are you sensing? What are you worried about? What's going on inside of you right now? What do you need? What do you want? What do you want me to do for you? And as we ask those questions, we can get below the surface and we can begin to discover what's going on in our hearts.